All right, we want to look at graphing sine and cosine with the TI-84. And just a couple things here. First, this is the most important thing. You must be in radian mode. If you do not put your calculator in radian mode, it will not graph it correctly. And here's why. Remember, when we graph these things, all of my road markers are in terms of pi. You know, I just threw this one up as an example. When I graph this thing, all of these road markers are in terms of pi. All of my x-coordinates for the sine and cosine graphs, and, well, all of them. We're going to find out for tangent and secant and cosecant and all of them. All of my x-coordinates are radian values. So you must be in radian mode or it will not do it correctly. This right here is critical. All right. Now, the second thing is we still must pay attention to amplitude, period, road markers, etc. Because if I don't, my graph is not going to make any sense to me. All right? So we have to pay attention to those things. And what I'm going to do is just walk you through one on the graphing calculator and so that you've got a feel for how we do it. Let's say that I wanted to look at, for example, y equals -2 sine of 2x minus pi fourths. All right. The most important thing that we need to do first of all is I need to take a look at my period. All right. My period is going to be 2 pi divided by what? Well, remember we said we factor out a 2, so this will become 2 times x minus pi eighths when I factor out a 2, because 2 times 1/8 is 1/4. All right? So my period is going to be 2 pi divided by this 2, so it's just going, my period is pi. All right? Now, what does that mean? Remember what the period means. That means it's going to do one deal, one sine period between 0 and pi. Okay? I just kind of threw a quick sketch up there. Now, let's think about that in terms of the graphing calculator. What is this pi number? Isn't it 3.14? Now, the reason why that's important is because we have to set up our window correctly on the graphing calculator. All right? Now, what would my road markers be? My road markers are going to be pi times 1/4. So that's going to be pi fourths. Well, guess what? We need to think of what that is in terms of the graphing calculator. So we need a decimal. So I'm just going to find what that decimal is. Pi divided by 4, and it's 0.785. Okay? So that is 0.785 for my road markers. All right? Now, let's also pay attention to the amplitude. The amplitude is -2. So that means this thing's going to come up to 2 and it's going to go down to -2. All right, that's something else we need to know for the graphing calculator. Now, one other thing. Isn't there a shift? This thing is shifted right. Pi eighths. So you need to keep that in mind when you are looking at the graph. All right? Let's go ahead and put the graph up, and if we need to adjust it for the shift, we will. So what we're going to do, first thing, we're going to go to mode, And we're going to make sure that we are in radian mode. I was not, so I need to fix that. Now I'm in radian mode. Then you go to your y equals screen, make sure everything else is cleared out, and you put in the function that we had, which was -2 sine of 2x minus, and I'm going to put another parenthesis here, pi, there it is, divided by 4, parentheses, parentheses. So there's my function. Do not press the graph button yet. What we want to do now is go to my window. Now, didn't we say that one period was 3.14, right? So I think it's good to allow yourself a little bit of room. You know, I could go from 0 to 3.14. I could do it that way, all right? Doesn't leave a lot of room, but let's just start with that and then we'll kind of see what happens. My scale, this is what's important. My x scale is my road marker. So didn't we find the road marker to be pi fourths, which was 0.785? We did. That is the important part for graphing if you want to see those road markers correctly. Then my y minimum, didn't we say my amplitude was 2? So what is actually -2. So if it were me, I would go -2.1 to +2.1, just to leave a little bit of room, and my y scale could just be 1. And this window screen is one of the most important parts of the whole deal, okay? I've got to be able, you know, to use this, because if I don't, your graph will never turn out right. So this window screen is critical, all right? Being able to label and get, especially this x scale. This x scale, remember, came from my road marker, all right? And my x minimum and x maximum came from the fact that my period was pi. Okay? So now all the hard work's done. We are now ready to graph this thing. So you can just press graph and let's see how we did. Now notice something, okay? First off, the sine graph, didn't it have a negative amplitude? All right, so let me get this someplace where I can write on it. Okay, we had a negative amplitude, which is why the graph is going down. Okay, and notice, didn't we have a shift right pi/8? See that? So this shift right is why it starts here, and then right there is my normal sine graph. Now if I wanted to see the whole sine graph, wouldn't I need to change my window a little bit? All right? And you know, there's some things that I could do with the calculator. I could show exactly one period if I added pi/8 to 0. Because isn't that what this point right here is? It's pi/8 to the right. So there's some things you could do with your graphing calculator if you wanted to see it exactly one period. All right? And so we're going to stop there for today.